let's see how we can use the fetch API to fetch data from a URL and then display it in an Angular application. Now let's begin. We have this API here located in this URL, and as you can see here, it returns an array. So, and in this array, it contains objects, and in each object, it has the user ID, title, and body. Now, we want to return this array and then display all the elements in this array, but the only properties we are going to display is the title and the body. So we are going to display each element in our fetch API component and display the title and the body. Now let's see how we can do it. First, we are going to make the request in the ng-on-init lifecycle method. We are doing it here because this is the lifecycle hook that is called whenever our API, our component is being initialized. So we want to make the call when it's being initialized, grab this array and then display it in our component. Inside here, we'll call the fetch API, then we'll pass in the URL of this API. So we'll pass it here. Now, one thing we need to know, the fetch API returns a promise. So you see, it returns a promise of an object response. So we already know it's returning a promise. Now, you know that a promise can either be fulfilled or rejected. So let's grab whenever the promise is fulfilled. So we do that by calling the then method in it, then pass a callback that grabs the response. So this then will be called when the fetch API succeeds in fetching the data from this URL. Then it will emit or it will fulfill, and when it fulfills, this then method will be called. So this is called when it's fulfilled, and then we'll grab the response of it. Now here we need to transform this response to a JSON, so we'll have to call response.json in it. So now this JSON is a method in the response object here. So it converts the response to a JSON and then returns a promise of it. Now since this returns a promise, then we can capture the past response or the past JSON in another then method call here. Now this data grabbed here is now this array being returned from this URL. Then we need to find a way in which we can get hold of it in our component and then look through it to display it in our template. First, we need to declare a class field. Let's call it data, and it's an array like we have here. So what we are going to do here is to grab or set the data to this class field data. So we're going to set it like this. So with this, we have succeeded in fetching this data from this URL using the fetch API, then converting the response to a JSON, returning it, and then also using the then method to grab the promise of this and then to retrieve the JSON, and then here we now set it to this class field data by using this assignment operator. So now we have this data here, and after this call, this data we will now have the array set in this data parameter. Now what we have to do is to come to our template and then render the data. So this is how we are going to do it. We are going to use the ng-for directive. First, we need to import the ng-for in our imports, then come here, use the asterisk ng-for, and then to display the array. So we'll say ng-for datum of data. So and then we'll display the properties title and body. So this datum will contain an object in this array. So because here the datum, we have the datum here, so we will now grab the title and this body to display their values. So we'll come here and say let's have a paragraph or so, then write title, then we'll now access the datum variable, and then the title, get the title, then the body, then the body. So we have an error here. It says body does not exist on the type never. So we need to type this our class field. So to do that, we'll come here and say response data type. So we're going to create the data type here. So since let's just pick the title and the body, or let's just pick every properties. So we add the user ID, this user ID here, it's a number. As you can see, this is a number. Then we'll grab the ID, it's your number too. Then we'll grab the title, the title is a string. Then last, the body also is a string. So we have set up the data type. Now we'll come here and add the data type, because it will be an array of the response data type. Now you see the errors are gone because it can now see that the datum is a type of this response data type, and it has the title that it is accessing here. Now what we're going to do is we'll save it and then go to our app to see what happens. Okay, error, we don't have internet. Let me on the internet and then let me refresh. Now very good, you see we have our data displayed. See the title and the value and the body, also see it here. So we have it displayed here. Now you can see how easy it was to use the fetch API in an Angular component to fetch data from the internet and then display it. Then also we can catch an error. If there's an error, we are going to use this catch API, then grab the error off here and just display it using the console.error log, so that we can see the error in our browser. But if you are building a production application, you can also use this, or also you can use a toaster service to display a notification for the user to tell the user that an error occurred, and then to display a retry image. Now, so that's the best way that you can do it using the fetch API. We can use async-await instead of these then and catch methods. Now let's refactor this to use async and wait instead. First, we'll remove this catch, then we'll remove the then methods, then I'll remove this return. Then we'll use await here and then capture the response in this response data, and we'll copy this and change this response to the response data. Now next, because this JSON returns a promise, then we'll have to use the await here to fulfill it. Then we'll now get the data here. Now we are still having a squiggly red yellow warning or error here, so it telling us that we are using await without using it inside an async function. So we need to make this ng on it to be an async function or async method. So we'll come here and write the async keyword. So you see the errors have all disappeared. Then we'll save. So you see it works too. Now you see how using async and await makes the code much more cleaner and also much more less verbose than the traditional then and catch. Next, you notice that we are not catching any error here in case this fetch fails. So what we have to do, we need to add the try and catch error, then grab these three statements and put it here. Then we will now console log our error here, and that is it. Then next, see, we are using async in this ng on init. It is not advisable to use async in the lifecycle hooks. So what we need to do is that we will need to remove this and then move this code to another method. Then set the async keyword on that method and just call it in this and ng on init. Now let's see how we can do it. Let's create another method, call it load data. We cannot load dummy data. So load data, then grab all this and paste it inside the load data. Then remove the async keyword in the ng on init and paste it in the load data. Now we'll call the load data in the ng on init. We use this dot, and then it works. Now let's see how we can convert our promises to an observable. Now to convert this promise to an observable, we will use the from function inside the RxJS library. So you see we imported it here. Then we'll call it and pass this promise to it. So it will convert this promise to an observable. So this is how we are going to do it. From. So now this data becomes an observable. So let's type it here and tell it that it's an observable of a response data type array. So very good. So here we'll come to this member field and change it to be an observable type of a response data type array. So we add the observable here. So I think everything is good. Now we'll come here. This is not going to render. See, we already have an error here because this data is an observable, like what we have done here. So we need to subscribe to this and extract the value from it. So to do that, we are going to use the async pipe. Now we'll come here, we'll pass the pipe symbol, then write async. Next, is not working. We have a warning here. So no pipe found with the name async. Then we need to import the async pipe in the imports array here because the async pipe is a built-in pipe and also is a standalone pipe. So you see everything is working fine. There is no more error. Now let's save. So you see it works very well. Yeah. So we have seen in this video how we're able to use the fetch API and Angular component to fetch data from a URL and then pass it to a member field and then display it in our template. So this is all for this video, and thank you for sticking with us to the end of this video. You can like and share this video, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Thank you so much, and bye.